Hello. So we're ready to start some actual writing work. And so this will be kind of an extended session. Um, First thing I want to do though is show you some one more material that would allow the children to develop their hand and would also not require anything that you're replenishing. It's something that you could set up for them. And I've seen it done in different ways, but let me show you what I have. A couple of different ones. So first one. So this is a sorting activity. And so you see 4 different things in the little boxes, 4 things of each one. So 2 different sizes of beads and 2 different types of buttons. And what the child does is puts all of those items into the big tray at the top and then puts on the little blindfold. And that's one that's very child friendly. It's got a piece of elastic that goes around the back so the child can set that up themselves. And then they're going to use just their fingers to distinguish the different ones and put them all back into the trays, sort them out. So that's the first one, the easiest one. And then there's a more advanced one that I'll show you now. Let's see, did I do share screen? Sorry. Get back into it. So, second one. So this is a more advanced one with only beads. So 6 different types of beads and 4 of each. And so once again, you would put them all mixed up into the middle section and the child would sort them out that way. And they really enjoy that challenge. I believe people sometimes set them up in little bowls, maybe on a tray so that they don't scoot around too much, something like that. The little boxes are wonderful though. So that's something that you can see how the child would really be able to work on developing their finger strength and at the same time discrimination, and it's a fun challenge for them. Some children don't like blindfolds. So, some children will do it sooner than others, at an earlier age, but a lot of them enjoy it for sure as they grow up. And even the one that's easy, maybe they're going to choose one that should be easy for their age, but again, being able to use their little fingers to discriminate and divide them up, sort them out is a really great activity for them. So we'll move into actual writing now. So we've got the child's hand is developed. The child is interested in these sounds. And first thing I really do, I really take on writing as a one-on-one activity. Montessori is famous for these sandpaper letters, or even you might have noticed in the video in Kenya that they had an actual tray that the child's fingers were kept in the tray, and the child was writing the letter C over and over and over again like that. I sit with the children and work with them day by day, individually, but I'll work with several at the same time. And the children really come along so quickly in that way. Some children, have difficulties with one letter or another, and there are lots of tricks for helping them out with that. But I'm going to just give you my basic method that I use and has worked I've been doing it for 3 decades plus, and I learned it from the woman that I was an assistant with um, early on, actually 40 years ago. This coming spring, it will be since I was an assistant in her room. So I begin actually with the numerals, with the numbers. And I just find that a real way for the child and I to start kind of our relationship with this. The child is going to be very motivated to write, sometime between 3.5 and 4. Maria Montessori found sensitive period for writing is 3.5 to 4.5. And I have to tell you, I see it with child after child after child after child. It's very rare that a child is not just very motivated and interested to learn to write at this age, especially if their hand has been developed, if someone has been reading to them, if they have good language, they're going to be very interested in writing. And so I use these little chalkboards. They're about the size of a regular piece of paper. And I make what I call starting places. So, each numeral and each letter will have a particular starting place. When we get to the letters, some of them start at the bottom, some in the middle, and some at the top. So this is tremendously helpful to the children to work with these starting places. And then I model that I'm going to put my chalk right on the starting place and stroke down and stop before the edge so that we don't draw on the table. So we stop before the edge, and I will model it 2 times. And then I invite the child to use their starting place or places to repeat it. Sometimes they need to trace mine and not just be seeing it, and that can work very well. But most often, just by observing, the child is ready to go with it. They've developed such facility with the pencils, with like the metal inset type of activity, that they're just ready to go. I'm just going to flip through the next 2 numerals that I do. So I go from 1, I go to 0. And with 0, the stroke will be different. So this time we're going to the side and around. And that can be tricky for children. A lot of times they just want to hurry and get to the bottom kind of thing. And really work with them on making it more rounded. And so this is where really tracing the one that I've drawn can be very helpful to them. I mean, even repeatedly tracing it, their hand gets really used to that. You can use a sandpaper letter or a tray like they showed in the video. I don't have trays like that. But you will probably come across that. It looks like that's definitely there in Kenya at that school. And that can train the muscular memory for the child, help the child to be able to internalize the way to form a numeral or a letter. And then the third one that I do is the 7. And so you can see how the child's now going here. And my one thing with numerals like this, you're going to keep the chalk on the chalkboard and down. So I don't want to go into too much detail with that. I don't know, I'm happy to do that once you get into it, or if you're really ready to go with that. But I want to just kind of give you the idea today. And so after the child goes through the numerals, then we're going to go to the letters. So let's just give you a little example of that. So here's the G, and we call it G. We don't refer to it as a G. The child might know their ABCs. And so if they come out with that, if a child tells me this is a G, I would say, well, yes, that's its name, but the sound that it makes is g. Now, of course, sometimes it does make a j sound, but first of all, we'll be working with the g sound. So we just focus on that sound with them for this letter. And because the cursive letters are not the letters that they see all the time in books or wherever, it really works very beautifully, both for their hand, because the cursive writing is so natural to the human hand, so much more so than printing. And then also as giving them something really different, something that looks really different from the print letters that they see, to learn that this has a sound, and the sound is good. So, once they start writing on paper, now I noticed this was not a very great example. I'll show you one that's a little better in terms of child starting on starting places. This actually is a child who has been forming this letter for quite a while. So she wasn't too worried, and she's also one that's not super orderly about every little detail. I mean, I have children that will just erase something if it's just not absolutely perfect. This child clearly is not that worried about every single one. You can see her first one and last one are pretty good, although they don't really start on the starting place, just in proximity. But you can see how she has gone back and traced over my example. And I will lean over and draw that in front of the child so that the child's also watching it being formed. And this is, the child has already worked on the chalkboard with this one. She's already been writing it quite a bit, but she still, needs some extra practice. And they are just, I can't even tell you. I'm going to show you some examples to give you an idea. But I mean, this sensitive period for writing is no joke. They are so motivated to do this writing. And I'll give you an example right here. And I hope to show you a little video of a child writing. Hang on, I'm going to see if but this shows you, this is a child, this is in one sitting. They just will sit there, they reach a point where it doesn't even take them an hour. And you can see I'm not writing the first example. The child is just independently going off with their writing card. And I'm about to show you what a writing card is. They're just going off and just practicing their letters all on their own. And what I will do is they bring it to me in a stack, and I'll go through. And if there's something that they're really having difficulty with, maybe like on this set, don't really see much for them to have to work on, maybe on the B there near the bottom of the middle column, you can see they're kind of having a hard time with the little tail. They did it right the first one, but then they look like they're having difficulties. So I might turn it over and demonstrate again how to do that one, and with the little tail, and we might even get the chalkboard back out, and then they would practice it over on the back. Or if that fails, doing it on the back messes, they have a problem again, then that's where we would get a chalkboard and practice and do a fresh piece of paper. But overall, this one just did great with it. And that's very typical that they just are so driven to write that they cannot honestly get enough of it. Sometimes they will do it twice in one day, all of that writing. And we would never require that of them. We wouldn't even think of it. But I'm telling you that it just comes out spontaneously. And that is a child with, a choice of everything else that I've been showing you in the Montessori room, that they will come in, and very often that is the first thing they want to do in the morning. And they just are so all about it, so voracious, as we would say. So what happens, I was going to show you the writing cards. So let me see if I can find that. Share screen. this. So what I do is I track them. So you can see up in the upper right corner, this child has only so far worked with 10 letters. And so I always do them in the same order. You can see there's some method to that, like I introduce the A or the A before I do the G and the D, which will use that very same stroke to start them. So the child is going to master that movement for the A before they move on to those other ones come later. Same thing like with the N, they're doing 2 humps with a connected, they go up the same line. So the N before the M, and just going on like that, just some different strokes that this is a progression that I've worked out over the years, and I really enjoy it. And again, I can get into so much more detail with this as we go along. But you can see like the child's card next to that one that doesn't have that many, the next one that's in the upper middle position, you can see that he has 4 of the letters have circles on them. And that means that if we point to that letter, that child can tell you this one is A, this one is T, this one is A, like that. They know the sounds of the letters, those letters that are circled. The ones that have a line under them are ones that he's working on. And I'm going to show you how we work on that to help them to it's memory work. It's just to memorize the sounds of these letters. So you can see some of these other children, they know a whole lot more. In fact, two of them know absolutely every single one. And so it's just a work in progress. And some children, honestly, and actually that child, the middle top there, he now knows all of them. And he was one that just flew through it. I mean, just once we started in, he just really internalized them all very quickly. So let me show you what I use to help them, the material that they use to learn this, that we use to work on it. So this is the material known as sandpaper letters, and I was encouraged to make these when I was training to be a Montessori guide in 1987, 88. And these are made out of a kind of cardboard. And then I just, cut the letters out. And I have also helped people to just make a set of cards and not have the sandpaper, just to simply have the letters traced with a wide pen of some kind. And those can work just as well for this. I don't know what you will find out from the Montessori trainers about using sandpaper letters. One of the things about sandpaper letters is the child doesn't know where to start. And it can be a real, the sandpaper letter is supposed to train the hand to make that track of that letter properly. But if the child doesn't know where to start, if someone's not sitting there watching them, in my experience, they will go all over the place. So I'm thinking that this is why they had those trays in Kenya where the child could not get off of the track. But even then, they have to know where to start and they have to know which direction to go. So that's where I just end up working with the chalkboard directly as a one-on-one kind of intimate exercise. But you see how the child becomes so independent, and they become very independent very quickly. But they do have my tutoring, my support and help in getting to that place. And So I don't end up using something they call movable alphabet, which is a little set of either cards or cutout letters that children will make words out of these cutout letters because they cannot write. I mean, that to me is just, I call it a crutch. That, I had one child that had developmental issues that I used that material with. But other than that, I'm a firm believer that the child wants to write, to physically write. And if we will just give them the opportunity to A, prepare their hand, and B, to have someone actually coaching them, working with them to help them, then there's no reason that the child cannot just physically write words. And that is just so satisfying to them. So anyway, this material gives the child the opportunity to match up these little items that I showed you in the previous video, that the child would just do an oral exploration of apple begins ah. So now we say, here's the ah, and this child is already writing this letter. So this is where the child can use the little objects with these letters to begin to memorize which thing begins with each sound and each letter that they see here. And so as I say, this I do after the child has some experience in actually writing these letters. Then I will select some out and we begin to start to just memorize them. And again, I can go into much more detail on how that is done, but that begins to give you an idea. So lots of screen sharing this time. Let's see. So I just want to show where we go from there. Let's see. Do I have? Oh, I do have the video. Let me show you the video. Let's see how this works. I'm not sure. I haven't done this before, a little video, but I might not be able to do it. Yeah, I don't think I am set up to do this, but I'm going to try to do it as a separate little quickie video. It just will show you some of the joy of the child actually doing this writing. But the final one I will show you is kind of our final arrival point with the writing. Is once the child knows enough letters, then I can dictate a phonetic word and the child can write the word. Now I will tell you that in the beginning, the child will hear the beginning sound. So I dictate sat, begins with, I use that same little prompt and they easily know. And then I have to, what else do we hear? Sat. And no matter how much I emphasize that middle one, they pretty much don't get the middle one. They will get the ending one. They will come up with the t. And so then they're going to write the t. For the ending, I point that out to them. That one goes at the end, the right one over here. And then we have to work with the middle sound. It always takes them a little more to learn that one, to be able to hear it. Some children do get it immediately, but a lot of children need some work with that. So we'll just work with a few of the 5 vowel sounds in the beginning, maybe 3 sounds. I usually do ah, ah, and so that it seems real different the way the mouth forms those ah, and so which one do you see? Sat, and so then that's how they are able to do that. And at some point they begin to put all those letters down in the right order. Oh, and after we write the word down, then I'm going to say we're going to check it. So sat, sat. Yes, it does make sat, so we begin to introduce the idea that we're writing a word that we can read. But reading typically is around 4.5. I have had a number of children begin reading at age 3 when they were close to 4, but they are not the norm. And it's very interesting because until they get to be about 4.5, they're not really that interested. Even if they can do it, they aren't that interested in reading, not so interested in reading as they are in writing. So then, yeah, we just continue on with some more writing activities. But that gives you the real beginnings. And I'm just going to wait to hear back from you and John about what else you would like from me. But that should get you started on that interest that you said that the parents would really be looking for that. And I'm just thrilled because, as I say, these practical life and art activities and the language activities are the things that really set the child on such a positive path. They just feel so welcomed into life, I believe, by being invited into all of these handworks and taking care of the environment, mopping the floor, scrubbing tables, doing things like that. And then also language, because language is a part of daily life and they see written words all the time and they want to be invited in. They are hardwired. Maria Montessori did not expect that these young children would want to write. But she started seeing their interest in coloring using something like chalk. And so then she began to just give them different little helps. And she invented the sandpaper letters because they enjoyed texture and tracing. And they just spontaneously began to write. And she did not have paper really for them, but they had chalk and little slates, little chalkboards. And she records that the children just began to, it wasn't enough. And they began to just write on the floor and the walls and everything. It was just chalk, so it could be wiped off. But that's that explosion that you can see on the paper that my children are using. That happened with these children very spontaneously in the first Montessori children's houses. And that's where she said, wow, there is a sensitive period for writing. Once the child can speak and discriminate that there are individual sounds, there's just this explosion and this, capability of writing. We would never, it's interesting in the United States, if children learn cursive writing, they don't learn that until they are 9 years old. And here I have 3-year-olds that can write the entire alphabet with no problem. So, 3 and 4-year-olds for sure. So, it's just the failure to observe young children and see what they really are interested in and capable of is astounding. And the joy that is released for them by us giving them the opportunity and providing the tools and the coaching that they need to achieve that is just, it's the magic of Montessori. So thank you for your enthusiasm, and I wish you every success. And if you see this before Christmas, I wish you all a very merry and blessed Christmas season. Bye-bye.